Greetings, M Squared here, and today we're going to solve linear equations, but we're going to use this little flow chart that I've made. This is helpful for students who struggle with knowing what to do and when to do it. So there's a series of things you can ask yourself. For example, first you'd ask yourself, do I have fractions? If you do, then you would multiply both sides by the common denominator. If you don't, you ask yourself, are there any parentheses? If you have parentheses, you use distributive property. If you don't have parentheses, can you combine like terms? Get the variable on one side, get the numbers on the other side, and then divide by the coefficient. So that's kind of a nice way to do it, so to keep your steps in order. So we do have fractions. Denominators are 3 and 2. A common denominator is the lowest number that 3 and 2 both go into. That's a 6. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 6. When I multiply both sides by 6, it's important that you realize that this is one thing. Since the 2/3 is multiplied by this x plus 4, we only multiply that whole product once. So each product we're multiplying once, or each term, but this is considered one term because it's being multiplied. So you can either say 6 times 2 is 12 divided by 3 and get a 4, or you can divide first. 6 divided by 2 is 3 times 1 is 3. So either way, you can cancel, or you can just say 42 divided by 2. It doesn't matter which way. Okay, so that's our equation. We're going to bring that over here, so we're going to just put it in each step. So if you write this down like this, it'll be nice to have it next to you when you're solving an equation, because you can kind of look at each step and what was happening. So now we need to use our distributive property. So remember, you have to multiply both things. So you get 4x plus 16 minus 3x equals 8 plus 21x. And now I'm going to bring that down and show you how we need to combine like terms. Okay, so now we're going to combine these guys. That's x, 4x minus 3x. That's what we do at this step, is we combine like terms on either side. Sometimes you have to combine like terms on both sides, and sometimes it's only one side. In this case, it was just one side. Okay, now we're going to move over here. Isolate the variable means to get the variable expressions. Sorry, I was looking at the wrong one. To get the variable expression all on one side. So we're going to get the variable expression all on, you can choose either the left or right. I look at my x's and I use the biggest one and I move things over there. That way I don't have to worry about a negative. If I moved the 21 over this way to the left side, whoops, that's a 1x, then I would have a negative 20. But now I have a positive 20 because I moved it over to this side. So I still have the 8. Okay, so now I'm going to bring that over here. So I have 16 plus 8, 16 equals 8 plus 20x. And so now I'm going to isolate the constant. I'm going to get all the constants. Those are numbers on the other side. So I subtract 8 from both sides, and I get 8 equals 20x. Okay, so now my x is almost alone. It's okay, I'm just switching this. It doesn't matter if you leave it on the other side, but I like to usually have my x, so if I could just switch the sides because they're still equal. So now, to get the x alone, I divide both sides by the coefficient. A number that's in front of the x that's multiplied by it is called a coefficient, so that's a word you might need to get used to saying. So I divide by whatever's in front of the x, I get 8/20. 8/20 reduces, 4 goes into the 8 2 times, and 4 goes into 25 times. So this is my answer. I always like to check. You can check in a calculator, or you can check by hand. But either way, you're going to take your original equation, and you're going to write it, but I'm using parentheses for x. So everywhere I have a parenthesis or a blank, I'm going to put 2/5. So I put 2/5 there. And then I actually simplify it. So when I do 2/5 plus 4, I can't add without a common denominator. I get 4 and 2/5, but I need to change that to a fraction that is an improper fraction. So you can do 22/5, or you could have changed this to 20/5, right? And then we get 22/5 here, times 2/3. So that's that. And then this guy, that would cancel. and I'd get 1/5, equals, and then I have 4/3 plus, and these kind of cancel out, so I have 7/5. And at this point, it's easier to put it in the calculator to see if it works. So what you want to do, you have a calculator that has a fraction key. It's really nice. So let's move that up so you can see what I'm doing here. This fraction key, this ABC key is nice. So I can take 2 fraction 3, that's 2/3, and times it by 22/5, and then subtract 1/5. And you can see that I'm getting 2 and 11/15. So I'm going to put that right there, 2 and 11/15. And then I take the other side, I take 4/3 plus 7/5, and I got 2 and 11/15. So both sides of my equation, I got 2 and 11/15, and that tells me that I'm absolutely 100% correct because both sides worked. So checking is super important. It's a little harder with fractions, but it's super important because you can know right away if you actually got the question correct. So good luck with that. M Squared, signing out.